So yeah, aside from our speakers, Blaire and Natalie, we will have, we'll ask that you remain muted throughout the discussion. If we have some time at the very end and you have some questions for Blaire and Natalie, we would love to do that. But if we have some free time, yeah. So to start off, I would like to do I'd like to do a land acknowledgement. Um, that we do out of respect here at YWCA Sudbury. So we wish to acknowledge that YWCA Sudbury is located on Robinson Huron Treaty Territory on the lands of the Connecting and Anishinaabeg and Wanapitei First Nations. As an organization that supports women escaping violence, we must acknowledge the direct connection that land-based violence has on women. We must also acknowledge that the theft and dispossession of Indigenous land is inseparable from the continued violence against Indigenous women and Two-Spirit folks, and in turn, inseparable from the work that we are doing today. We also seek to recognize the contributions Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples make in shaping and strengthening this community and other communities as well. As settlers, this recognition of ongoing settler colonialism must go beyond spoken words. To make real our collective commitment to the Truth and Reconciliation 94 calls to action in our communities, and in particular to bring justice for murdered and missing Indigenous women, Two-Spirit people, and girls across what's known to settlers as Canada. So today we are celebrating International Women's Day. This is a celebration that goes on across the world. It began, I believe, in 1911. So it's been over 100 years that we've been celebrating and acknowledging and recognizing women's rights. Each year there is a theme. So this year's International Women's Day theme is Inspire Inclusion. It means to celebrate and encourage everyone to recognize the unique perspectives and contributions of women from all walks of life. Diversity is to be included in all aspects of society by breaking down barriers, challenging stereotypes, and creating environments where all women are valued, respected, and empowered so that we can achieve gender equality. Today, I am so happy to welcome some of our past Women of Distinction Award recipients, Blaire Flynn and Natalie Parent. So nearly 14 years ago, I'm just going to do a quick introduction. I hope that's okay. Nearly 14 years ago, Blaire moved to Sudbury after completing her Bachelor of Science in Nova Scotia to pursue postgraduate studies in environmental monitoring. She has since worked at Cambridge College, Science North, the City of Greater Sudbury, and she currently holds the position of Senior Education and Outreach Officer at SNOLAB, where she strives to improve supports and create accessible opportunities for women in STEM. She is passionate about arts and social justice, and this shows in her volunteer work with Black Lives Matter Sudbury, Fierté Pride Sudbury, L'Arche Sudbury, the Up Here Festival, and We Live Up Here Urban Arts, where she's on the board. We also have Natalie with us, and Natalie knows what it's like to face adversity and the resilience, strength, and determination it takes to succeed and grow. As a mother of two, working full-time to make ends meet, she put herself through college, pursued a bachelor's degree in law and justice with a minor in labor studies, and also graduated with honors, which is absolutely incredible. She now works as a human resource manager with Pioneer Construction. She is selfless and leads by example, advocating for and uplifting marginalized groups through volunteer work with Sudbury Women's Center, Sudbury Métis Council, Sudbury Area Victim Services, Meals on Wheels, and the advisory board for the Sudbury Coalition to End Violence Against Women. Both of you do absolutely incredible work. Thank you so much for all your contributions to our community. To kick us off with this discussion, I'm going to start very broadly and ask you both, um, what does it mean to you to inspire inclusion?
I don't mind jumping in first. I can get us started and you can add, Natalie. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Cool. So I know that in my position, I talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion a lot, and I hear about it a lot. Um, so I like to think of diversity and equity as having a seat at the table. That's going to be in society, at work, anywhere that decisions are being made. And I think of inclusion as having a voice, and belonging is having that voice be heard. Um, so inspiring inclusion to me is not only about creating room at the table for women and gender diverse groups, but it's also creating an environment where people feel like they can speak up and they can share what they have to say. Um, for me, inclusion is even more than having that seat at the table and access to resources. It's also considering women and marginalized groups throughout the aspects and structures of our organizations, and our governments and in our worlds. So yeah, fostering that space and, for people to participate fully, but also to feel that they could succeed. Kind of, I'll pass it to you, Natalie, to add.
No, I think I agree with everything you said, Blaire. And like for me, it means everyone has an equal chance to achieve their own version of success and happiness. We don't all come from the same places, same backgrounds, same experiences. So it's exactly everything you said, our own version and how we get there. And leading by example is a crucial in inspiring that inclusion. Getting involved when women in positions of influence can demonstrate inclusive behavior, like you were just talking about, and that decision making, well, it encourages others to do the same. So acting as that mentor, that active listening to the experiences and concerns of others, and empowering them, those around us, to voice their opinions and contribute to those discussions, right?
Yeah.
That seat at the table, like you said. I think that's wonderful.
And that active listening, yeah,
Yeah.
how we can elevate and support, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, ladies. All right. So with that kicking us off, let's delve a little bit deeper. Um, there are a lot of barriers and stereotypes that make it challenging for women to be fully included in all aspects of society. Would you be willing to share a time where you faced these kinds of challenges and how you overcame them? And if you have any advice that you would be willing to share with women who might be in similar situations?
So in my early career, in science, a lot of my early positions in science, and even in some of my coursework, I found myself sometimes the only woman in the room, or the only woman on a work crew. And and that can feel like a lot to carry at times, or, I would tell people that, you know, in those situations, even if you feel like it, you do not need to represent all women out there. Always kind of remember your training, your abilities, and to just do your best. I think it's really important to remind ourselves that when things can be challenging, use your voice. You deserve to be there, and you can control yourself, but you cannot control the bias of others. We can work towards shifting, but yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Blaire. So for me, trying to think, I think it's always been challenging, just as a woman, as someone who doesn't come from a privileged background or anything like that. And I don't think I'm alone in that, right? Like I'm not, like, this is not unique to me. This is, I'm speaking, I think, for a lot of people. And I'll also take ownership. I'm sure I've created my own challenges in my life also. But like I come from a background, like I said, that didn't maybe have those financial advantages or external motivators, but I've always been determined to make the most of my opportunities. As a woman, sometimes we tend to, like you said, underestimate or, have that lack of belief in our abilities, especially when you're looking at senior roles. And, that's something that we're hoping, like we're working through, right? Trying to break those barriers and barriers to education, the stereotypes, some of the policies that might be in place in places that, hinder some of our abilities to kind of move forward. So all of those, I think, are some of the challenges that we all face, not just me, but I think I'm not immune to it, but everybody faces that. And the advice I would give to somebody, or maybe even to my younger self, would have been like, don't be scared to create your own path. You don't have to follow those societal expected journeys. Embrace your individuality and don't be so hard on yourself. Even those who seem to fit the mold, they're probably struggling too. Different struggles, right? So yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah, incredible. Absolutely. So many different kinds of challenges from everywhere. Not just inclusivity. I think that it was really wise of you to bring up that a lot of times we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to and to accomplish or achieve or do whatever, and that can be its own challenge as well. I'm gonna shift the focus over to you a little bit, Natalie, for this coming question. In what ways do you think that we as individuals and also as organizations, because that plays a big role in it as well, can amplify the voices and experiences of women, particularly marginalized women, to ensure that their stories are not only heard, but also respected and acted upon?
That's a tough one. It really is. But like from my perspective, and again, like I'm not an expert on inclusivity, or I don't see myself an expert, but just, going through my experience and what I've seen in my roles in my professional life, rather than seeing differences as a barrier, like celebrate the diversity and recognize the strength that comes from these varied perspectives and experiences. Everybody brings their own perspective to the table, and sometimes that's what an organization needs, or sometimes that's what a person needs. Again, I'll go back to that active listening. Actively listen to women whose experience, actively listen to women's experience, like without judgment. Like create a platform for that open and honest conversation. Again, be mindful of those policies and procedures that are in place that might hinder growth of women, like implement policies and practices that can actively address those gender biases and that discrimination. Foster that culture of accountability for those engaging in discriminatory behavior. I think that's a really important one. I think we're making good headway on that, but there's still some work to do. The other thing is highlighting achievements. So recognizing and celebrating the achievements of women, particularly those from marginalized groups, and use platforms to showcase the success and contributions. I feel that the YWCA does that through their recognition, the international, women of distinction, through this platform here. Like you're giving Blaire and I that opportunity to give our perspective on some of those things. So you're creating that platform. So thank you very much. Challenging those stereotypes, and I'll go back to education and raising awareness too, like just conducting those awareness campaigns to educate others about challenges faced by women, particularly those, again, at the intersects of the, marginalized identities. promoting empathy and understanding, those kind of things. I'll stop there because I'm sure Blaire's got some stuff that she wants to talk about. But yeah, I think just creating those opportunities for women to be heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were a lot of good points. Blaire, if you want to follow up,
No, I
if
think
you want to, that's
no, I think
yeah.
Natalie did a fantastic job. The space, creating that space to hear people and to elevate and allow people to speak and share. Yeah. Stuff.
Yeah, a lot of good points. Yeah, it's definitely still a work in progress, but the progress is still being made, and that's important too.
And even incremental
Um,
progress is still progress. There at times it feels like there's a whole lot of work to do, but I think reminding ourselves that, you know, change is happening and we can be part of that. Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Speaking of being part of change, it is International Women's Day, and we are focusing on women, but women are only half of the group that deals with being included. By nature, inclusivity cannot be achieved alone. Since both of you work professionally in male-dominated fields, what do you think are some effective ways we can engage male allies in actively supporting and promoting women's participation in both your fields and beyond in our communities as well?
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's a really important piece of advancements and of change. You know, we're not here alone. We're a community with lots of different voices. So I think that when we have the privilege and the safety to do so, we can let male allies know how they can help to improve the experience of women in the workplace or in community, in your lives. Sometimes it's going to be small, practical changes that might not even seem like big groundbreaking stuff. Sometimes it's just reorganizing a little bit or, you know, making certain things accessible or whatever. But sometimes it's going to be small, practical changes that are needed, and they can make a big difference in a woman's ability to contribute fully. And other times we need a whole culture to be shifted, and we need everybody to work on that, you know, male allies included, to make those kind of changes. So people need to feel safe, respected, and understood to do their best work. And we need those male allies, and I imagine a world where women do feel safe and supported and where they can do their best. I mean, imagine what that could look like.
Yeah.
Well said, Blaire. Sorry, did you want to say something, Julie?
No, not at all. I'm good.
Okay. Sorry. So yeah, well said, Blaire. And I'll go back to that seat at the table. You know, back to what you said, like encourage individuals, especially men, to be allies in the fight of gender equality. You know, fostering a culture of mutual support and allyship within organizations. That strong voice and advocacy. You know, investing in that training and the education, partnering with and support organizations like the YWCA and initiatives that focus on advancing the rights and opportunities of marginalized women. I think those are really important, and you know, making sure, especially in the construction industry and the science industry where we're completely underrepresented, encourage those organizations to get feedback from women, you know, break down those silos and get us involved in some of the things that they traditionally wouldn't be involving us in.
100%, Natalie. And I will say, like, sometimes allyship can be simple as asking women for their input on processes, on how we do things, you know, because sometimes it's just little things that need to be tweaked to create a much better experience for, you know, women in the workforce.
Yeah, exactly. Great.
Yeah. Thank you so much. All right, I shifted the focus over to Natalie for a little bit, so I'm going to ask you a question, Blaire. What we've talked about striving to take small and big steps to create some change. What strategies do you think that we can use to not only advocate, but also drive action that promotes enthusiastic welcoming of women's talent and experience at the table?
Yeah. I think that we need to remember having diverse perspectives makes pretty much every workplace or design of a community setting, it makes it better. Diversity, I really feel that having diverse voices makes processes and workplaces just so much better. I think that allies can make a huge difference by creating that room at the table, by respecting the women that are around them. But I would also encourage women and gender diverse groups to remember that you are worth it just the way you are, and not to be afraid to take up that space. So when you get a seat at the table, you can get comfortable there and you can take up that space. You know, so when you're given that opportunity, if you're given the opportunity to lead, take it. Even if you're not so sure in yourself, somebody thinks that you can do it. So, they believe in yourself and your abilities. So use your voice with confidence. When you have that opportunity to space. I think also that we have a lot of unconscious bias that works against us. Women in society, women in leadership, it can impact how your voice is heard, how it's received. I would encourage people, not to be afraid to be confrontational. You stay calm and collected, but sometimes you need to share things that are going to ruffle some feathers, and it's okay. Because, you see that in different workspaces where sometimes, men can be received as strong and competent, and women can be described as loud and bossy, but they're exhibiting the same behaviors. So I guess I would tell women not to be too concerned about what other people think, and support each other, mentor. I would also say to the men in the room, to check your privilege, check your bias, check in on that and make that space.
Absolutely. Great points, Blaire. Inspiring points as well. It's women, I don't know about all women, but it's common for us to not have as much confidence and not want to be confrontational and not want to ruffle those feathers. We're supposed to be the nice ones, right? Caretakers. But we also need to be respected. And to make any change, it's not going to be a smooth and easy ride. Hearing that from people like you, Blaire, and like you, Natalie, it's definitely encouraging for sure.
Yeah.
But that's yeah. Did you, I don't know if you wanted to touch on anything for that question, Natalie, if you wanted to add anything to what Blaire has said. I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, I think all her strategies are wonderful. Like I said, like offering mentorship and sponsorship to women. I think it's important, providing those mentorship opportunities for women, helping them navigate professional challenges. Sometimes sponsorship can involve advocating for women's advancements within the organizational structure also. I think that's important. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, both of you do absolutely incredible work to uplift women. This has been recognized by our organization and recognized by people in your communities and your networks. For anyone listening, and I'm going to open it up a little bit, what's like, if there was one thing that you wanted to make sure that stuck with people regarding inspiring inclusivity and having diversity, having more confidence, anything that we've talked about so far, if there's one thing that you wanted to stick, what would you like for people listening to remember? I see you thinking.
I'm happy to jump in. I guess for me, women make up roughly half the people in the world, and I feel they simply need to be included. They need to be in the room when decisions are being made. So I guess my kind of advice or my tidbit for people, that my takeaway would be not to undersell yourself. You're the only person that is quite like you, and really that's what each individual has going for us, in my humble opinion. There's, our experiences, our skills, they give us unique perspectives it's of tremendous value. So the sooner we can accept ourselves and we can show up authentically, the better we're going to be for it. I'd also say be confident, and remember that lots of men are confident and they have half of your skills. So believe in yourself.
Yeah. Essentially the same thing, Blaire. Women bring unique perspective and solutions. Women bring unique talent and life experiences. Women bring unique emotional connections that are all values, and they should be celebrated.
And I think I would even to add on that, women can have a tendency to think holistically, and that's an asset.
Yeah, agree. Well said.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely food for thought, things to hold on to. I appreciate both of your unique perspectives in this conversation. It has been absolutely amazing to hear what you both think, and what has worked for you, and where you think things could be improved. Because this is kind of what it's all about. We're on a journey, it's a process. Before we close out our questions, well, my questions anyways, I just wanted to open the floor up to both of you ladies. In case, I know I just asked a little bit of a broad question, but is there anything else that you want to add? Doesn't necessarily have to be about questions that I've asked, but things that you may have thought about as we were talking, things that you may want to throw in or plug or anything like that. Opening up the floor really quick.
I talked a bit about being confident. I guess my advice as well is, if there's an opportunity that comes up and then you're interested in, put your hat in the ring. You don't, because I run into this a lot, and I do my best to, provide a little bit of mentorship and guidance, but women can have a tendency to feel, I need to hit every single item and qualification on a job ad before I can consider applying. You do not. Put your hat in the ring. So circling back to, I guess, to the confidence piece as well, it's not easy to be confident, and it's really normal to be nervous, and it's normal to second guess yourself. So I would say, to learn to recognize those feelings when they happen, but also take that moment to remind yourself that you have a reason to be where you are, whether it's your work, whether you're giving a talk, whether you're taking charge of a situation. Your experiences, your skills, those are real. So do trust yourself and find some confidence. On finding confidence, something that can be helpful for the students, the professionals out there. Maybe you've started a new role at a job. I've advised people, and I've done this myself, to make a list every week of what you've accomplished and take a look back at that, you know, in 6 months' time, because that can really help with your confidence, because it shows you that list of, these are all the things I've done. Often people, you know, across the board, I think it's a, you know, human species thing. We can forget a lot of the details and we can focus on the failures and the big milestones. And we can easily lose sight of all the things that we do accomplish. They're just small, but that all builds. So yeah, I guess my other last piece is to always remember that we can succeed while we're lifting others up. So we can work together. We can help each other. And sometimes it's going to be us that'll be benefiting from the actions and support of other women. And sometimes we're going to be in that position of privilege to make some space for others and, you know, help to make that change or to elevate. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well said.
There was a quote that I had read recently that is just when one woman stands up for herself, she's also standing up for all other women, just by leading by example, showing that it's possible. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Natalie, not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no. So for me, it's like just final message, kind of like, don't ever give up. Like, we all think we're not good enough. We all think we haven't achieved enough. You know, some of us might even have that imposter syndrome, right? You know, I've had it myself, you know, oh, if only I can, you know, go to college, I'm going to feel satisfied. And, you know, if only I can get a BA, I'll feel satisfied. And, oh, you know what? It's not good enough. It's not, I still don't have enough. I still don't have enough. But, you know, at some point, you know, some of what Blaire was saying is like, write it down, acknowledge everything that you've accomplished, and understand that you do bring value. You do bring value to the table, and celebrate those. And I think part of that goes back to like, acknowledge and respect everybody's journey and seek to understand where people are coming from.
Yeah. Those are good points. Yeah. Acknowledging that other people, you have no idea the journey that other people have been through. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everybody has pretty incredible lives, every single person. Yeah, so with all of that said, I'm going to give a quick thank you again. I cannot express how grateful I am to be here with Blaire and Natalie, and be able to chat with you about these important things, and again get your perspective on it, because you do have absolutely incredible, insightful, and inspiring perspectives that I'm so glad that you were able to share today. Before I close out really quick, I just want to, we have like a little bit of time. If anybody in the audience has any questions they'd like to throw Blaire and Natalie's way, we have a few minutes. You have their ear right now. So please feel free. And if there aren't any questions, then we'll be able to say goodbye. But if you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself. And
just one more thing, if I may, Julie, just to thank again you and Marlene and the YWCA for creating these platforms for people like Blaire and I to showcase kind of, you know, what we've been through and what we've overcome to reach where we are today, to demonstrate to people it is possible. And there's people out there that care. Like there's organizations that care about these things. There's people that care about these things. And without organizations like you and others in the community that Blaire and I are all involved with, you know, I don't know where we would be today as women and marginalized people. So thank you very much.
Yeah, well said, Natalie. Thank you so much. Yeah, to everyone for being here, but also to YWCA for creating the space and supporting women in our communities and beyond, so that they can achieve.
And like they get women at the most vulnerable stages of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
It's just remarkable.
Yeah. And I mean, with some, what's also remarkable as well, I mean, with some support, you know, you can achieve, you can, you know, yeah. Anyway, lovely conversations. Thank you all for coming.
Thanks, folks. I have one quick question. If I think it kind of builds on maybe your last kind of comments there, is just around, like, I mean, given like the state of the world and kind of all of the different things that are like going on, and even in the, you know, after the wake of kind of some really big movements like Me Too and Black Lives Matter, and kind of like trying to work towards how we build the momentum behind those movements and to kind of bring the ideas and the awareness that those movements kind of created into and kind of translate them into real change. It can kind of become a little bit difficult to stay optimistic sometimes, given the weight of those issues and just sometimes how difficult it is to kind of like, I don't know, change is so difficult sometimes to kind of like see as you're like working towards all of those things. How do you guys not let some of that defeatism creep in a little bit? Like, what's your, you know, how do you stay optimistic given the world
Yeah.
and the people in it?
And that's a great question. And it's a real thing. I mean, I do need to remind myself frequently that change is happening, even if it feels slow, even if it feels like we've stepped forward 2 steps and we went back, you know, 3. Oh, okay, we're coming, you know. So I would say, yeah, don't go at it alone.
Community.
This is where community groups, where you can contribute to change in your workforce. I know that coming out of 2019, our workforce, but we didn't know where to start for our EDI initiatives. So we started a task force. You know, should we do a committee? There's a lot of options for what we could do. We decided, let's go with a task force. We'll get 3 years to do concrete actions, and then we'll check in and see where we are. We're ready to do a committee now, but we got some things done and we made some change. But yeah, it's like one step at a time.
Yeah.
Celebrating those small steps.
And
yeah.
I would also say too, connecting with others, connecting with other women as well, mentoring, lifting each other. That is really how we will rise and overcome. It is a group effort.
And I think the real reason why us women and the movement stays optimistic is because we don't give up. Mm-hmm. We're used to fighting. We're used to being resilient. Like there's no other way. And it's not just women, like, you know, there's that, like you said, there's, you know, services and other organizations in the community. And there are some really great men behind us, pushing mm-hmm. us. You know, I can speak for my husband. I can speak for my workplace. You know, inclusivity is there and it's being supported. And Hannah, like, we don't give up. Like, it's not even our vocabulary. So that's how you remain optimistic.
I have a question, if that's okay. So I have 25 years of sales management and social services management in my background. I've been ED of a couple of different agencies, and for the first time in my life, 6 months ago, I joined United Way, and I'm working for and with primarily women. There are no men in the office, which is the very first time. In all of the other agencies and environments that I worked in, it was male dominated, even though I was the boss. There were many times I was the only female. So my question is, how would you suggest that I maximize the opportunity to just spend time with women in the work environment? And then knowing the way that things go in, 3, 4, 5 years, when I do go back into another environment where I'm back in working with men or back in a male dominated environment, what can I pull away from this experience?
I think that's a great question. And I'm going to relate it to kind of, I was in the education area for a long time. I worked at Laurentian University for 12, 13 years. I was at Snow Lab for 3 years. And now I'm working in construction. Completely different environment. I think you bring a unique perspective to your workplace. I really think that you're going to bring that unique perspective that maybe other people that you're going to be working with at the United Way, they haven't worked in those male dominated fields before. So I think the way you would maximize that opportunity is act as their mentor in that space. Right. And you'll learn a lot too, because you're going to see how different it is working in an environment with just women. You're like, wow, I can talk about this. I can leave my period products on my table,
We're doing tampon Tuesday right now.
Yeah, well, that's why I said that. I just finished a couple of events there with United Way presence. So yeah, I think embrace it and use it as opportunity to mentor your staff about, what other cultures and other workplaces are like. I'm learning, being in the construction industry, you can imagine how vaguely different that is than working in higher education. So yeah, embrace it and take that as a great opportunity, because I sure am.
Great, thank you.
Natalie and Blaire, I just want to say thank you for your time today and for sharing your experience and your expertise and being able to help educate people in our community. And so just wanted to say thanks for your time. Thanks to those who came, and thank you, Julie, for organizing this. And happy International Women's Day.